Welcome again, and we're going to talk about 7 common mistakes of prayer counseling. This is the ministry of inner healing or deliverance, whether you call it prayer ministry or prayer counseling or prophetic prayer counseling, or whether you want to call it prayer therapy. It's all the same thing. It's the ministry of ministering to the heart. The first common mistake is breaking confidentiality, and this is a really big one. This is the main thing my instructor emphasized when I was in school of prayer counseling about maybe 10 years ago. The number one way to destroy your ministry is to tell people's business. If you have a problem with gossip and confidentiality, then maybe this is not a ministry for you. The next common mistake is allowing transference to occur. And this is basically where the counselee comes in and they transfer an unmet need onto you. For instance, if you have a woman and she's coming there and she's having a hard time with her husband, and you're the man that listens to her, and all of a sudden she becomes attracted to you and she wants you to be her husband now. Or you have a person who's coming and they've had a hard relationship with their parents, and all of a sudden they want you to be their mom or their dad. Where I'm not your mom or your dad, I'm your prayer counselor. Now there's sometimes when you will become close to a person and you'll be like a mother or father figure to them. However, you have to know the difference between when that's your assignment and when there is a transference that is going on. On the flip end, transference can also take place between the counselor and the counselee. For instance, all of your best friends should not be people that have come through your ministry to be ministered to. As a prayer counselor, you should have healthy, functioning relationships in your current life and not have to revert to weaker people becoming your friends. And so if you find where you're always becoming best friends with the people you're ministering to, then you may need to get some ministry. The next mistake is justifying sin. Someone comes into your office and they say, the reason why I'm so possessive is that I love my family so much. No, you're not. You don't love them. You're just fearful. You're just afraid. Or you have someone that says, I just give all the time and I can't tell people no because I just have such a pure heart. I just have such a giving heart. No, you lack the ability to say no because there's deeper issues that need to be dealt with. Maybe you are afraid of their rejection, or maybe there is some type of judgment there that says that I will never be used or abused or taken advantage of, and you're living out that self-fulfilling prophecy. But giving excessively is not you having a good heart. That is a bad fruit, so therefore there is a bad root. So we can't justify sin just because it seems to be a good deed on the outside. The next mistake is bringing your personal bias into the ministry setting. If you are a person who doesn't believe in women wearing pants, or if you don't believe that a woman should not be walking around with a hat on, or if you have a bias against men to where you were personally molested or abused, you just automatically assume that the man that you're ministering to is just wicked and full of evil, and you start judging him and you start defiling the relationship because of that unhealed area of your own heart as a counselor. So we got to deal with these biases we have in our heart. You can't come into a counseling situation and believe that homosexuality is the worst sin, or believe that infidelity is the worst sin. If you have these personal biases in your heart, then it's going to show and it's going to bleed through your ministry, and you're going to end up defiling the people that you're ministering to. So you cannot have a bias. The next mistake is not receiving ministry yourself. That is actually called the heart of stone, where you can give out ministry, but you can't receive ministry. And so as prayer ministers, we have to become vulnerable so that we can relate to the people that we're ministering to. And also, if we haven't been healed and delivered on the inside, then how are we able to effectively minister to others? And so every year as a prayer counselor, I go through ministry sometimes 2 and 3 times a year, because I want to make sure, like an oil change, that I'm getting cleaned out. Because every year we become hurt. Every year we get wounded. People hurt us. We lose people. And we just got to go in and get ministered to. So that's the next mistake. You have to go and you got to get ministry yourself, even as a counselor. The next mistake is allowing people to be a medium. And this is where you are having conversations with demons through the person during the deliverance portion of the session. And this is in Luke 8:30, where Jesus was ministering to a man, and all of a sudden he asked him what his name was. And, he answered and said, I'm legion, for we are many. And many people misinterpret that scripture as him talking to the demon. Well, he didn't have to ask the devil what his name was. He's all-knowing. He's omniscient. And in every other verse in scripture, he always commanded the demons to be silent. He was trying to communicate with the man and establish a relationship with him, but the demon responded. The last common mistake is jumping to conclusions. And this is a very hard one, especially if you've been trained as a prayer counselor. We immediately assume that someone has something and we diagnose every person. I remember I was on a job one time and I was working with this person and I was like, oh, I know that's a parental inversion issue that they have there. They must have been the oldest child. So I went to them and I said, hey, are you the oldest child? They said, no, I'm actually the youngest child. I said, oh, wow. Sometimes we jump to conclusions and we automatically assume that someone has this issue or that issue. You're not going to know what they have until you interview with them and you ask them questions. So as a prayer counselor, don't be presumptuous. Don't jump to conclusions. Find out by interviewing.